Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be using an iPhone 6 in 2025. This phone is on iOS 12, the last supported version, meaning many apps won't actually work on this device, but I'm going to challenge myself today and see if it's actually possible to use this almost 11-year-old device. It's kind of crazy to think about, and we're going to see what kind of impact it has on the battery and all that awesome stuff. Oh, and by the way, the reason this thing doesn't have a camera on the back, you guys will need to click on the video at the top right. But anyways, let's go ahead and get right into this video. Now, one of the first things I ended up doing with this device was connecting my Spotify to it. So I'm actually able to sign into Spotify, no problems there. It plays music, of course. I mean, this thing doesn't have a camera, but it does have a speaker, so that's always nice to see. The pairing process is also super simple with Bluetooth, so no surprises there. But keep in mind, this thing is running iOS 12, so technically some apps will still have support, and Spotify is one of them. And then for this part, let's just confuse the newer generation. But I did end up wrapping my phone around with the OG Apple earbuds. It's so cool. I mean, everything still worked just how I remember. Afterwards, I did some work and decided to check out my emails. And yeah, I was just looking through the Mails app. I usually don't use the standard iOS Mails app. I usually use Gmail, but it was cool to see that you're actually able to sign into the native mail app on this device, and everything just works as it normally would, which is kind of cool to see. And the next thing that I want to check out here was actually just using random apps. So I was reading through some of my comments on the YouTube Studio app. This is the app that YouTubers use to check out their video analytics, all that awesome stuff. And afterwards, I opened the YouTube app and it worked just fine as well. I didn't have any problems loading videos, although there is going to be a bit of lag, so you will 100% need a bit of patience when you're using a device this old. And then afterwards, I decided to try out pretty much every single social media app that I had on this device, starting with Instagram. It looks the exact same way that you would expect on pretty much any latest iPhone, Android device that you have. And this is where Meta, aka Facebook, does a really good job with app compatibility, especially on older iPhones. They know that there's a lot of people that are still using the iPhone 6 in 2025. And actually, be sure to comment down below if you guys are still using this phone. But yeah, I then moved on to Facebook. I don't usually use Facebook all that often. I usually just use it for Marketplace and some groups. But yeah, I also didn't show this one in my video, but WhatsApp is working as well. So yeah, Meta is going to just have a lot of support for older devices like these. But then something interesting happened. The App Store just stopped randomly working while I was filming this video. It is working now, thankfully, but I don't know, sometimes the App Store just randomly stops working out of nowhere. Maybe it's like an expired certificate, but I feel like iOS 12 is too recent for App Store to stop working. So I'm pretty sure Apple is gonna keep supporting it for the foreseeable future. Now, there are some other apps on this device that I showed, Discord works as well, and yes, I will be coming out with that Discord server soon. I'm still kind of figuring out how to make this server kind of come into fruition. I don't really use Discord all that often, so I'm kind of trying to learn the platform over time, but I promise you guys it will probably come sometime this year. I also have Reddit on this phone as well. I mean, it's Reddit. I think it's an older version, which is kind of cool to see. And then we have the Wallet app as well. You could actually still use this phone with Apple Pay. I have my Apple Card hooked up to here, which is kind of cool. So if you ever forget your wallet and you happen to have your iPhone 6 on you, well, congrats. You can use it to pay for something at the cash register. Now, in terms of apps that didn't work, the Twitter app, because I guess it's X now, Tesla didn't work also. And of course the camera app. I mean, this thing doesn't even have a camera to begin with, but this is probably something you guys shouldn't worry about because I think most iPhones do have cameras nowadays. But yeah, basically what I learned about using this phone in 2025 is that the battery is actually pretty good. It's not as bad as I expected. Now, prior to filming this video, I set this phone up to make sure all the apps were working. And so there was a period in time where I literally just left this phone on my desk for about 2 weeks, and Wi-Fi was on. It was just getting notifications every now and then, and this phone still managed to power on after 2 weeks of just sitting on my table, which I think is pretty impressive. Now, at 1800 milliamp hours, it was originally advertised to get around 10 hours of battery when connected to the internet, and of course, your results will vary, but it's actually kind of impressive. Now, granted, this battery is at 100% battery health, but a swap on this device isn't really that hard, and batteries are pretty cheap as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind though, this phone is slow. It requires a lot of patience when using your favorite apps. I especially notice this a lot when using apps like TikTok. This phone It's still supported by most major carriers in the US as well. It has voice over LTE, which essentially allows you to make calls, receive text messages, and use the data network. There's no 5G on this phone, of course. I mean, 2014, there was only LTE at that time, but if you're curious to know if your local network supports this device, you can usually head on to their website. They usually have a list of compatibility on there. But of course, before we end off this video, this phone has a 100% battery health. One thing to keep in mind, the screen was also set to always on, so it didn't actually end up dimming throughout this video. It just kind of helps make the entire filming process a lot easier. And this phone also has no jailbreaks as well. But yeah, overall, I'm pleasantly surprised with the iPhone 6. You can pick one of these up usually for around $20. So this is a great backup iPhone in 2025 if you're on a budget. And I should also mention, getting one on an older iOS might give you a smoother experience, but it's going to be a lot harder to come by just because they're very rare. But if you do, don't expect many apps to work on iOS 8, for example. A better value iPhone, in my opinion, is the iPhone SE 3rd generation. Similar form factor, updated internals. You really can't go wrong. I know Walmart sells them for like $150 here in the US, but maybe consider the SE3 after the SE4 comes out, because I think it should be here in a few months now. So definitely keep an eye out. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a huge throwback being able to use this device today. But before you guys click off real quick, 2 more fun facts about this device. This was actually Apple's best selling smartphone of all time. This was also Apple's thinnest iPhone of all time, although that could change with the iPhone 17 Air to be determined. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.